How did you eventually make your way to Japan? UK, China, Japan?
Yes, exactly. After a year of having the children out of school, they had to go into school. Japan was conveniently close, and then I'd always liked Japanese design, and it was a very different set of rules, and different because Japan was urban long since, and it was quite interesting. So we moved to Japan in 1984 and stayed 3 years.
Where in Japan did you live?
We lived in Tokyo near the American school, so the kids could go by bicycle to school. And I did a lot of collecting work in Kyoto and also other small places. I went to Japan with lots of letters of recommendations. By then I'd sold quite a bit to European museums, and they all gave me letters. And I went around to the Japanese universities trying to find a sponsor so I could get a proper research visa while I was there. But the mood in Japan at that time was, if you want to study kimono fabric, you must study either 17th century or 18th century, very, very fine and expensive textiles. And me, I was interested in what had been popular priced and what was modern. I thought we in the West at that point, we had seen quite a bit of 17th century precious textiles. We'd seen something of indigo and white farm textiles, the Mingei stuff, and we had no idea of what was the rest of it.
What was sort of modern or available at that time?
Well, what was available at that time was in flea markets, stuff from your mother or your grandmother. There were a whole different set of rules. In Japan, one was not supposed to buy secondhand clothes, so they were very cheap. Japanese were not supposed to be buying secondhand clothes, and you were supposed to keep everything that you inherited from your mother and your grandmother and your family, just keep them.
Uh-huh.
But by the time I was there, very few people were wearing kimono on an everyday basis. Mostly it was just worn at New Year's or marriage ceremonies, special holidays. So there was a lot of stuff that wasn't being used. And since I didn't succeed in finding a university to sponsor my research, I had to once again go out and buy stuff and put it in front of people and say, what is this? Where is it from? What is the fiber? What is the meaning? And just do this ground level research in the same way as I'd done in much less sophisticated societies.
Was it frustrating that you always had to go do the work and present to the people first?
It was a little bit frustrating that I couldn't get a proper research visa, because every 6 months I had to worry again. Are we going to be thrown out of the country? What about our house? What about all this money I've paid for tuition? But with the support of the British Museum, I was just barely able to afford 3 years in Japan.
What was it like to be a foreigner in Japan, which is a very monocultural or homogenous country?
Japan was frustrating and rewarding at the same time, like so many other places. There are always things that you wish were different. I would have liked to have a job there so I could really afford to go to a movie every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So other comforts. But it worked out very well. I certainly learned a ton about dyes and colors and the Japanese way of putting things together. It's really different from the Western.
And it seems that your the Andrea Arnaud collection, a large part of it is Japanese. Is that?
That's true. I was really hooked on Japan, and far from thinking I knew it all. after 3 years. So I've been going back to Japan once or twice a year for the last 25 years to
One of the
learn more.
And I'm sure we'll talk about this on Wednesday, but one of the favorite things that I've seen are the Japanese futon plaids.
Yes, they're gorgeous.
They're amazing. I want my entire wardrobe in those. Did you collect those when you were in Japan at that time, or was that one of your later coming backs?
I collected those at the time also.
Do you remember the story? Was it a futon store? Was it
A store?
How did you get these futon plaids?
I got everything from flea markets and these places that are called haihin kaishus, which are basically garbage situations. In Japan, they've been recycling for a long time, and at that time they were already sorting out the garbage pretty well, and the rags were exported to Pakistan for wipers or something. But if I went to a small enough town, they'd let me climb into these mountains of textiles and pull out what I wanted. So that's the way I did it.
And you would just go into these piles and piles of textiles and pull out whatever you wanted?
Yeah, that's what you did. And then they sold them by weight.
That reminds me of going to the Goodwills here in Portland.
Yeah,
The
that must
bins.
be pretty nice.
It's pounds and pounds of clothes, and you search until you find something that's nice, and you pay by the weight.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And here it's people's trash.